They didn't expect him to cry. Not him. Not Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, the man so many believed would become the next pope. The wind swept through St. Peter's Square as he stepped forward, his hands trembling slightly, his eyes fixed on the crucifix hanging from his neck. The crowd fell into complete silence. "I have seen something," he said quietly, "something I cannot unsee. And I must obey what the Lord has revealed." No one moved. No one spoke. Just days earlier, in a remote convent in northern Italy, Cardinal Tagle had been summoned to a sealed chamber. Inside, a vault untouched. For over 6 decades, there, among dust and parchment, lay a letter. Fragile, faded, handwritten, the ink had bled with time. But the message was terrifyingly clear. A prophecy, a name, a warning, the letter, long rumored to be the missing continuation of the third secret of Fatima, spoke of a shepherd in white who would fall, not by sword, but by silence. Beside that, another phrase barely legible: the false light will rise beneath the dome, crowned not by heaven, but by agreement. Tagle's hands trembled as he read it. He looked up, not at the ceiling, but beyond it. He knew exactly what it meant, or at least enough to understand that everything was about to change. He returned to Rome different, quieter, heavy with something invisible. Then, the announcement he would no longer accept any future position of elevation within the Church. He would step away from Vatican governance, step away from the spotlight, not out of fear, but obedience. He didn't explain. He didn't name anyone, but the air around him felt charged, holy, and haunted, while others celebrated Pope Leo XIV's rise to the throne. Tagle walked a different road, one marked by silence, sorrow, and surrender. He said he would dedicate his life to hidden prayer, that the Church must be ready to bleed again. Before it can be reborn, no scandal, no disgrace. Just a man who had seen too much. Some believe he saw a vision. Others say he spoke with a dying monk, passed on a truth no one else dared carry. And some say it was divine Luis Antonio Tagle, the man once called the Asian Francis, the man who smiled in every photo, now walks the halls of silence, carrying something the rest of the world still doesn't understand. What did he read? What did he see? And why? Is he stepping away now? Rome watches and waits, because when a man like Tagle breaks, it's not just personal, it's prophetic. Asterisk, he vanished from the headlines overnight. But inside the marble halls of the Vatican, the absence of Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle felt like a storm held back by prayer alone, the one they called the Asian Francis. The shepherd of the poor, the theologian of mercy, had turned his back on power not with rebellion, but with tears. And ever since his announcement, the Church has whispered, not with gossip, but with dread, because they know something has begun. Behind the towering colonnades of St. Peter's Basilica, behind the gold and incense and sacred rites, there are movements. Some say factions, others say ancient currents. But all know this: the Vatican is no longer at peace. Some cardinals rejoiced at Pope Leo XIV's swift election, calling it the breath of continuity. Others, fell into deep silence, watching, waiting. One bishop was overheard murmuring this: conclave was fast, too fast, as if it had been chosen before it ever began. And Tagle, he knew, he wasn't removed. He wasn't disgraced. He was, by all accounts, still honored, still welcome. But something in him broke that day when he read the prophecy sealed away for decades. He walked out of that convent not as a prince of the Church, but as a man burdened by eternity. The letter was unsigned, the handwriting frail, almost trembling. But the message pulsed with divine fire. It spoke of a time, this time when the bride of Christ would be tested like never. when her own walls would shake, not from storms outside, but from tremors within. The light will appear holy, it read, but its source will not be the Lamb. And the voice of the stranger shall sit in Peter's chair, clothed in robes of obedience, speaking words not from heaven, but from diplomacy. Some say the prophecy refers to a future false pope. Others fear it speaks of now. But Tagle never claimed to interpret. He only wept. He said, "I have spent my life loving the Church, and now I must love her from the shadows, not as a leader, but as a watchman." What did he mean? Since his withdrawal, mysterious events have begun to stir. One by one, trusted theologians have gone silent. A famed archbishop reportedly left his post, citing a crisis of light and loyalty. A letter was leaked and signed, but written in the language of prophecy warning of the coming shaking of the bride. And then, Rome received an anonymous document, marked only with the seal of the cross, pierced by a sword. It listed 7 names. All cardinals, all believed to be members of an inner group known privately as the Circle, a group said to be working within the Vatican to reshape doctrine, realign loyalty, and prepare the Church for something the letter called the New Flame. But is it a renewal from God or a counterfeit crown? Some say the Circle meets in the catacombs beneath Rome. Others say they operate from high offices in the Curia, speaking in tones of progress, but masking an agenda of spiritual inversion, and Tagle was never one of them. He was seen just once since his retreat, in a small chapel outside Assisi, kneeling, weeping, whispering something no one could hear. A pilgrim claimed to see his lips form the words, "It is coming. It is already here." Then he was gone, and now reports are surfacing. A statue of the Virgin in Sicily, weeping tears again. But this time, not blood. Ash, a group of cloistered nuns in France receiving the same dream. Night after night, of a blazing dome and a voice crying, "The fisherman is sleeping. Wake him, or the sea shall take him." In Jerusalem, a priest collapsed mid-mass after reciting the creed. When revived, he repeated one phrase over and over: "Rome is splitting." And in the Philippines, a child with no formal education reportedly drew a perfect image of Cardinal Tagle kneeling before a burning scroll. When asked who told her to draw it, she simply said, "The woman in white." Something is unfolding. The papacy, the heart of the Catholic Church, now rests in the hands of Pope Leo XIV, a man described as quiet, prayerful, deeply discerning. But beneath his calm exterior, tensions grow. Some say he is a transitional figure. Others say he is the last bridge before the storm, and Tagle's warning, though unspoken, is felt in every marble corridor of the Holy See, one source inside. The Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith whispered, "He knows something, something buried, something older than the Church's scandals, older than the smoke of Satan. This is different." They say a hidden war has begun, not of swords, but of souls, not of doctrine alone, but of destiny and the bride of Christ. She stands at the edge, dressed in white, marked by wounds, and her tears are no longer silent, because if Tagle is right, then the shaking is coming, not from the world, but from the altar. And the question we must now ask is not who will lead, but will we be ready to follow? When the fire falls, the days grow shorter in Rome, masses continue. Incense rises. Pilgrims still kiss the feet of saints carved in stone, unaware that beneath their very steps, the foundations tremble. Not from earthquakes, but from prophecy in a forgotten corridor beneath the Vatican library, locked behind 3 seals and guarded by silence. A chamber was opened last week. The Holy Father himself requested it. Witnesses say Pope Leo XIV emerged. Pale, he said nothing for hours. Then, alone in his private chapel, he wept not with fear, but recognition because what Cardinal Tagle read. The scroll of ash, the shepherd's warning. The prophecy once dismissed as myth. It ends with a name, a single name written in gold ink. Not Tagle, not Leo. Yours. You were always part of it. And now, you must choose, because the final battle won't be fought in the Vatican. It will be fought inside every soul still willing to kneel. When the trumpet sounds,